Mute everybody first.
Okay. Well, good morning. Today, um, in a sense, I actually want to talk about practice. Um, and um, the instructions for practice that we've been discussing for years um, is to have the intention to keep your focus on knowing that you're breathing in or knowing that you're breathing out. And then when a sound arises or a thought arises, to know that a sound arose, to know that a thought arose, and to not go wander off with it. And um, one thing that interrupts us very, very often uh, is I'm going to sort of just call them unwholesome mind states. Unwholesome has like a really big quality in our ears as we hear the word. It's like, ooh, unwholesome. But really, there's so many levels of what might be an unwholesome mind state. Um, it's possible that you could be filled with rage and anger and ill will um, toward somebody in your life personally, you know, who who did something unskillful, and that's one form of unwholesome that's quite understandable. Someone at work or someone in your family or someone does something that hurts, and you react with all this anger. And then on the other hand, there's things going on in the world every day that is incredibly harmful. And in response, you might well feel angry or enraged or have thoughts of ill will toward people perpetrating harm. And, that's also understandable in its own way. And what's significant for us in our practice is that our intention is to develop qualities internally where we are routinely and normally quite balanced and calm, um, relaxed, steady, um, in a place of balance. Like imagine, I'm trying to think of a the goalie in a soccer game. How the goalie has to like stay light on her feet and very balanced because the ball could be kicked to either side, and you have to be like ready to move, and you don't know which direction until it occurs, and then you're ready. That's what our practice is trying to create for us in our lives, is that we live in a really balanced place, in a place where we're light, we're light, light on our feet, light in our heart, light in our mind, and well able to move in whatever direction conditions create. So, how do we navigate uh, um, knowing, being aware of, being conscious of some kind of unwholesome mind state appearing? And I'll just use anger and rage and ill will as the example. Of course, there are others. And so these are two, brief quotes from the Buddha. The first one is, "What are the qualities that make one a contemplative? Two bright qualities guard the world. Which two? Conscience and concern." Conscience and concern. If these two bright qualities did not guard the world, there would be no recognition of those actions that deserve respect. Second quote, "These two should be developed, conscience and concern. That's how you should train yourselves." Um, I have this thing to read, but I'll just define a little bit. This conscience is referred to um, as, so in our example, you get really angry or enraged, you have the experience of ill will, um, and your conscience bothers you. No, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to have this experience. I don't want to support and encourage and get entangled with anger and ill will. That's the conscience. Uh, you have an ethical intention. The ethical intention is to be kind. The ethical intention is to do no harm. And the ethical intention is to not let anger, ill will, rage, or its opposites of desire, lust, greed. You don't want those to get out of hand. They arise naturally. You want to know when they arise, and you want to say, oh, I don't want to go there. And that's concern. Concern is before you go there. Oh, I see. I'm leaning in that direction. It's arisen. I'm concerned. That's not something I want to be, the Buddha's word, heedless. I don't want to be heedless. I want to know. I want to pay attention. I'm concerned that I can see, ill will or greed arising. So concern is what comes up in advance of or as it's beginning. And we train ourselves. That's what the Buddha said here. That's how you should train yourself. You train yourself that when concern arises, concern that perhaps if I stay with this, it's going to lead to a disturbance in the force. For those of us who know that phrase, it's when you get angry, even when it's like, totally justifiable. Someone out there in the world is doing tremendous harm. You're angry. You wish, you wish they would die. That's how fierce your ill will is in response. But all of that is not affecting the person doing the harm. All of that is affecting you. Really, you're doing harm to yourself. You're filling your body with, ill will or greed, depending on what the conditions are. The harm, the hurt, is taking place internally. And it's certainly the Buddha's contention that if there's really important work to be done to prevent harm, being filled with ill will gets in the way of clear seeing what needs to be done to prevent this harm. That you've lost your balance, you're no longer ready to move in the direction that's appropriate. Because whenever we take action, we make our best judgment. We use our life experience and our wisdom and our knowledge to say, I'm going to do this. If you're filled with anger, there's not a lot of room to keep an eye on whether I'm going to do this is exactly the right thing to do. From a balanced place, you are leaning in this direction, you're going to go this way, and you might notice right away, oh, I don't think that's the best idea. Let me back up for a moment. Let me pause. Maybe I need to redirect my effort. It sounded really good on the inside of my head, the action I wanted to take. But as I begin to take it, I see, oh, maybe not this. And being able to see that vividly and being, when you get so engulfed and entangled, for instance, in ill will, you often have the ease to push past your noticing this isn't working and just keep going anyway. Because the ill will, the anger is like really, it's motivating, it's pushing in a direction. And when you're not entangled, and all of that isn't filling up your field of awareness, then it's much easier to see whether what you're doing, even at the most beginning stages, is going to accomplish what you really want to accomplish. And it opens some freedom. So it's really vital for two purposes. One is just to have ease in your heart, in your mind, in your body, to be free of greed and ill will. And also so that when you act in the world, having been stimulated by, these kinds of desires to get rid of something or to hold on to something, that you can see clearly as you begin acting whether this is in fact on the path that you want to be on. So being able to be calm and relaxed and at ease and balanced, and being able to see clearly whether the actions you're choosing are the actions that are aligned with your intention. This is what being free of entanglement with ill will and greed gives you. An open heart, an open mind, clear sight. So, back to the question of practice, how do I do this? How do I develop this? How do I train myself? So, this writing I'm going to read is from Ajahn Janasaro, very good teacher. and I'll read some of it. And we'll see how much I read before I end up talking again. As Buddhists, when we talk about spiritual life, we talk in terms of a comprehensive, thoroughgoing training of all aspects of our life. That training requires us to identify and see the various aspects of what makes up our life, the body and the mind, seeing that which is conducive to true happiness and peace, harmony with others and the world, and that which leads to pain and distress, both for others and ourselves. It involves seeking to abandon harming, which should be abandoned, and developing non-harming, which should be developed. Sila, or virtue, is the training of our thoughts, our actions, and our speech. To begin with, practicing Sila entails going against the stream, going against our old habits, and actually doing things which are difficult to do, which we don't really like to do, and which thereby lead to tension and stress. But that stress is mitigated and feels much less pressing and significant when we have a real understanding of the way the mind works. We see that the only way to free the mind of its addictions is to get out of the habitually negative and self-oriented ways of acting and relating to the world. When we practice awareness and avoid saying or doing things likely to hurt ourselves and others, including the environment, we notice the arising of self-respect, of self-confidence, of a calmness in the mind. There are certain emotional forces or powers of the mind which help us to develop and maintain that purity. These are called, in the Pali language, hiri and ottappa. They have been translated in various ways. Hiri is often rendered as conscience, ottappa as concern. Hiri or conscious may be felt in the body as an inward contraction, a form of protection when one knows they have acted inappropriately. Ottappa or concern arises when an inappropriate action is being considered. It may be felt in the body as a light clenching when minor, or a full body clenching when significant. Hiri and ottappa are conditioned phenomena, which means that they can be developed or they can be neglected and ignored. The more we strengthen our reflection upon them through understanding and constant attention, the greater is our resistance to doing harm. When we have developed them, we can stand forth and counter the stream of old habits. This can save us from doing, saying, or thinking that which is harmful to us. Hiri, that sense of shame or conscience, is really a shrinking away from that which is inappropriate, the corollary of which is that we should always consider the significance and appropriateness of our actions. Ottappa is that willingness to stand back and think actions through. We consider the whole process from the initial action to the final results. There develops a wise dread, an intelligent fear based on the painful qualities of unskillful activities. The more we reflect upon these aspects of our behavior, discriminating between the appropriate and the inappropriate, the more we train our mind. The mind then becomes more refined, sensitive, confident, and protected. Thank you, Ajahn Genesaro. So this is what's to be developed in our practice when we sit, and maybe even more so in our normal day as we move through our life's activities, that this developing of conscience and concern, this developing of when we have done something that's disturbing, we know we have done something that's disturbing. How rare that is. Just to simply know when I've done something. And this done something, it can be just thinking. You know, you start thinking about something and you can feel in the body, your body contracting, your body being uncomfortable, tensions forming in muscles, and all sorts of things that unique to each person. The signals that say you're doing something that is going to require me to protect myself from the consequences. You're doing something that is causing harm, either to my own mind and heart and body or to someone else's. Conscience. To have a conscience and to be conscious, right? So similar. To be conscious of the body closing, the heart going, uh-oh, quick, protect me. And I cannot in this moment be tender and vulnerable because I need to be protected from the consequences of my harmful action. Free of harmful actions. Oh, right. The heart goes, oh, I could be open and tender and vulnerable and connected. How sweet. How lovely. Being conscious of that experience in the body, developing, 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 year after year, ever more skillful at noticing when the body feels bad in response to what I'm thinking or what I'm saying or what I'm doing. Imagine being in a conversation with someone and you're in the middle of a sentence and you're sensitive enough to notice that as these words are coming out of your mouth, your body is tensing to protect itself. Imagine noticing so vividly and clearly that you stop saying what you're saying literally in the middle of a syllable. And you look at the person you're talking to and you say, that wasn't coming out at all the way I meant. Give me a moment. I'm going to try again. What a gift. What a gift to not have to not finish the paragraph, not finish the sentence, not finish the word, but not even finish the syllable. Like stopping right there when you see it, when your conscience bothers you. And it bothers you in the body. That's where you notice it. If you try to figure it out and think, oh, is this harmful? Is this not harmful? The answer is not in the thoughts, it's in the body. That's where you know. That's where you can tell. And really, from my perspective, the clearest thing is my heart being protected? Am I like closing my body around the heart, around whatever tenderness and vulnerability I have? The way that tenderness and vulnerability, when things are going really well, allows me to be really connected with others. So valuable, invaluable. And this is what we're practicing for, we're practicing to have an open heart, a heart that's awake and alive, that's fluid and moving, not a heart that's entangled or placed in in a protective shield. So when we become conscience is arising, we have a conscience, we have an ethical conscience that says, uh-oh, this isn't where I meant to be. This isn't where I wanted to be. I'm going to stop. The ability to stop requires development. Most of the time, our conscience comes in after everything is done. After we've finished saying what we wanted to say, after we're finishing the entire thought process until it peters out and we realize all I've been doing is generating more and more hatred, or more and more lust. And that's great. It's wonderful when you see it afterwards. It's wonderful when you see afterwards that something you did actually was not, he says, conducive to true happiness and peace, harmony with others and the world. This is what we're working for. We want happiness and peace. And we want harmony with others in the world. And so seeing it after it occurs is wonderful. And as we develop, we move further and further toward the beginning of it occurring, so that we become aware of the arising of our conscience saying, is this okay? I don't think this is okay. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think you should be thinking this. I don't think you should be saying this. I don't think you should be doing this. And what's truly beautiful is it's your conscience. It's not someone else's. And because no one else can know what's happening inside your body, whether your body is clenching and tightening and self-protecting. That's the action of your conscience. And then as you develop, you move from the beginning to before the beginning. And that's where the concern comes in. When you can feel the arising impulse to initiate a way of saying something. You know, someone says something hurtful and you could feel the arising of, you know, what you're going to say. And this powerful concern, hey, that's not going to be great for me. Don't do that. Don't do that. And suddenly, you know, you develop to the point where you stop before you even begin. You haven't said a word. Maybe all you're able to say to the person instead is, wow, I don't know what to say. And then they may repeat the hurtful things they were saying. And at that point, if you're balanced and you're sitting in the seat of, yeah, I'm not going to hurt myself, I'm not going to hurt you, then the person says the hurtful thing again, and you say, um, I can see you're really angry, but, you know, maybe in better language than that, whatever's appropriate. Um, maybe even, wow, if I've really done something to make you this angry, I'm really sorry. Let's pick it apart and figure out so that I don't do it again. You might have to advance in your practice quite a lot to get to the point where you say, oh, your hurting me is all my fault. I'm sorry. That people don't do. That's against the stream. That's what he's talking about. The stream is, no, I have to defend myself. You're doing the harmful thing. I'm not going to blame myself for you doing a harmful thing. Um, and here's the key. If you get far enough in the practice, there is no blame. There is the possibility that I could say something I did, something I said, some way I was holding my body, um, you're responding to. And while I may be completely innocent of harmful intention, um, that doesn't mean it is impossible something I did or said or, you know, some way I acted um, did in fact get interpreted by you in a particular way. And boy, would I like to know more about your response to what I did. How valuable would it be to know that, well, you know, just the phrasing you used reminded me of somebody when I was really being bullied and harmed. And you know you didn't mean it in a harmful way, but you know you did in fact use that phrase. So, in fact, oh, I did do something that, you know, set up a series of internal events for you that caused you in the end to say something harmful, hurtful. I can take responsibility for having used that phrase. I did, and I'm sorry. I didn't realize, or maybe I knew that and I forgot. Maybe I didn't know that, and now it's incumbent upon me to remember. I'll never use that phrase. Not with her, because, you know, for her that reminds her of a time she was being bullied or harmed. So, it doesn't have to be that you did something wrong. It's simply you did something and the other person is responding. Very useful to figure out, oh, what was it that I did? Let's work together, you say to the person, to figure out what I did so that um, it doesn't necessarily have to happen again. Now, as I said at the beginning of that takes a lot of practice to get to that point where you're not defensive, where you're not righteous, where you're not sure that, hey, I didn't do a damn thing wrong. You're the one who's yelling, you know. And it's not a helpful response to someone yelling at you, though it's a common one. Um, and everybody has to figure out for themselves what works for themselves and for their relationships. But in order to see what works, you have to be able to see clearly. You have to be conscious. You have to have your conscience developed enough that when you do something that isn't in alignment with your own wishes, you know that. Oh, this bothers my conscience. And when you can see, when you've developed the clarity to see that you're about to do something that's not in alignment with how you like to do things, how you truly, deeply want to do things, that concern arises. Like, oh, yeah, no, 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 no. No, I know that if I go ahead and do that, it's going to start a whole cycle of just what I don't like. So that's what we're going to try practicing this morning. And we're just going to stay with the breath, be with the breath, know that you're breathing. And what we're going to keep an eye on is when a thought, mostly that's what it's going to be, because you're not talking or doing anything. But when a thought starts your body contracting, protecting, and what you're going to arouse when that contraction begins is concern. Now, this is concerning to me. This is not the way I want my body to be. I want to sit here and feel light and loose and open-hearted and alive and connected to all that is. That's where we want to be. So let's try this. Let's see if we can develop a sense of concern that whenever we can feel the beginning tendrils of contraction and tightness and protection. And if you don't notice until after the whole thought process is gone, then what you develop is a conscience. Oh, I did this. This happened. Right. This I don't like the tightness in my body that this caused. I know that. And then you go back to the breath. And you breathe and you open your body back up. Okay, so let's try this.